Me and the Navy had a difference of opinion on the zero tolerance for drugs policy that they had. And so I wound up separating from the Navy. And then that time in combination with when I was an industrial electrician made up of about 15 years and had a good recreational run with, alcohol and drugs and all the fun things. And finally just got to a point where I was like, hey, and like I said, it was a really cool job. And like we got paid really well. We called it kind of the golden handcuffs. So you made six figures, a little bit plus, but like you were working 70 days. If you haven't been skydiving, I'd recommend it to anyone.
Okay. It scares the crap out of me. Like, I'm afraid of heights.
Surprisingly, the majority of skydivers are.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Is that like how you get over that fear, or do you just...
Not necessarily.
Is it just the exhilaration of something you're afraid of?
So there's the thrill of skydiving is 100% there.
Welcome back to another episode of the Mind Your Own Business podcast. I'm attorney Jerry Parisi, and special guest today is Jake Blickenstaff. Did I say that correctly?
You did.
Awesome.
Surprisingly, it gets murdered often.
I'm not surprised because my name, do you know how people pronounce my name?
I don't.
It's
Parisi?
most people say Parisi, or some bitch. No, just kidding. And you are a commercial real estate agent.
I am.
Anything else that you are?
Yeah, investor and a developer.
And a father.
And a father.
And a husband.
And a husband. And a skydiver.
Just an all-around cool guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's great to get you on the show. I know that you also have your own podcast.
I do.
How long have you been doing your, and what's it called? 3 to 4 years now. Oh, wow.
The Northeast Georgia Real Estate Podcast.
Northeast Georgia Real Estate.
Yeah.
Cool. 3 to 4 years. That's a lot longer than I've been doing this one.
I haven't shot an episode in probably about 9 months.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, yeah. Cool. So tell us a little bit about how you got into commercial real estate and how it's different from residential.
That's a great question. So prior to being in real estate, I was an industrial electrician and did that for 15 years. Got started doing that from the Navy, and we'll jump back into that in a minute. But I wound up meeting people in my industry in that side of the business. And it was like I was the only one unplugged from the matrix, because everybody that I would talk to has been doing it for 30 or 40 years. And I was always asking them questions like on night shift. I'm like, hey, what do you guys plan on doing when you retire? And the overwhelming response was nothing. And I'm like, I couldn't wrap my mind around it. So you're doing 30 to 40 years of work so you can do nothing and probably die within 5 or 10.
Yeah.
And
slow down. The end comes quickly.
Yeah, real quick. And so like that was like a real big mindset shift for me on that. Yeah. And then also like after I do about 20 minutes worth of any manual labor, my hands start cramping up. So I was like, I need to find an exit. So I grew up, my mom, she always flipped houses. And so she'd buy the ugliest house on every block, and we'd live in it for 2 years. She'd fix it up, she'd sell it, and then we'd do it again. At the time, I just thought we were poor. Of like, why do we always have the ugliest house? But I mean, honestly, that was kind of my indoctrination into kind of real estate and investing and things like that.
So your mom did that?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Single parent household?
Yep.
Okay, cool. And so your mom knew how to work with her hands?
Oh yeah. She never waits around for man to be able to do anything. So cool. She will get it done or figure out a way to get it done.
That's awesome. So did she impart a lot of that on you, or the work ethic? Or?
Yeah, hands down. My mom still with us to this day, and she's one of my favorite people in the world.
Awesome. Very cool.
So I wound up taking the plunge and getting into real estate. And I was like, hey, I'm going to go headstrong and get into real estate investing. And then very quickly learned that I had a lack of education and a lack of capital. So I was like, well, I've already kind of taken the plunge. I left the job and the career that I was in for 15 years. And I was like, well, I'm already here. So I decided to get my real estate license. And for 2 years, pretty much beat my head against the wall, trying to figure out the real estate game on the residential side.
Yeah.
Finally hit some strides and did pretty well. Wound up teaming up with my business partner for our team that we have right now, UC Commercial Properties First Team. And we have 32 agents that cover all across the state of Georgia, South Carolina, and Florida.
Sweet.
And been doing commercial real estate primarily for the last 4 years. And it's been an awesome ride.
When you say 32 agents, is that 32 agents that work for you and for your company?
Yeah, for us specifically.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So what do you love about commercial real estate?
So and this ties back into your other question of like, what's the difference between residential and commercial? So in residential, it's very emotionally driven. So is it near the right schools? Is it in a good area? Are the wall colors the appropriate color?
No.
Yeah. Well, somebody always has a different opinion. Well, on the commercial side of the business, it's more numbers and logic and business driven. Yeah. So if it's an investment property, does it make money? And if it's a place to house or run your business, like, is this going to be the next step up for what we need to be able to accomplish? And so usually as long as it's within price and it checks those boxes, it's hey, we need to move forward with this.
So is that why you like it better? Because it's more business decision when you're buying commercial property as opposed to emotional.
Yeah.
I don't like the wall colors. I don't like the plants outside, the landscaping.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's what turns you on. Mm-hmm. The sort of more analytical aspect of commercial real estate.
Yes. And honestly, there's a lot of excellent commercial brokers in my side of the business, but like in an industry, there's a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah.
And so I feel that I'm able to bring that to the table with a lot of my interactions with my clients.
How do you approach that? How do you improve on what's already there?
So one of the easiest things for anybody that's listening to this, that's like wanting to get into the space, like if you are responsive and you know how to communicate and you call people back within a timely manner and respond to emails, like you will already set yourself worlds ahead of everybody else.
That's earth shattering.
Yeah. Right.
It's the same thing we get in the legal profession. Most attorney complaints are my lawyer wouldn't call me back. And I'm not joking. Like most of the bar complaints are, I can't get a hold of my attorney. It's amazing.
I just had a conversation with another broker this morning on a deal that we're working, and their buyer said, hey, we're not going to be able to go forward with this because my client can't get in touch with their attorney. And it's been 2 weeks. I'm like, that is wild to me.
Yeah.
But well, it happens.
The beach calls, right?
Right. Yeah.
Excellent. So, okay. So commercial real estate, are there any other tips what do you have to do to get into that space?
There's a couple different ways that you can transition if you're already in the business or if you're kind of just seeing this from scratch and that's the direction that you want to go. Mm-hmm. I would say finding a mentor, somebody that has what you want and is doing what you want to be doing. Like if they don't check those two boxes, they're not necessarily a mentor.
Yeah.
Because why would you follow advice from somebody that's doing something that you don't want to be doing or that doesn't have everything that you want to have? Next is get a great education. And I mean that there's a lot of good textbook education as far as a lot of people go through getting an MBA or getting their bachelor's in commercial real estate. However, external education's usually better. And what I mean by that is, so I'm going through CCIM right now. I'm taking my test, I think, in next month.
CCIM.
So it's Certified Commercial Investment Member. And it's kind of like having the PhD of commercial real estate.
Oh, sweet.
And so it's like 120 hours indoctrination of everything that needs to know, deep dive on every asset class, how to do site selection for tenants, investment analysis, running numbers, being able to compare properties against each other. So that for me was my indoctrination into the commercial side of the space and what I feel sets me apart from a lot of people because it's kind of a small community. And having that really does set you apart from other commercial brokers that don't. And on top of that, like I went down that path because I knew that I was eventually going to start buying commercial real estate, which we have. And that's helped me tremendously, not only from our own acquisition standpoint, but also from working with other investors, being able to look at the property as if I was going to acquire it myself. And then I can give that honest feedback to say, hey, this does make sense. This is a great deal.
So it sounds like there's a lot more to it than just what's the square footage and is it on a corner lot that is going to get a lot of foot traffic?
Correct. Yeah, there's a lot of different asset classes out there, and every asset class has different characteristics that are unique to it. I could bore you to death with all the details, but yeah, I mean,
let's get boring, dude.
So you have like retail, you have industrial, you have office, you have land, you have multifamily, you have hospitality for hotels, you have gas stations. So every single one of those have different things that make them specific. Okay. So in retail, they care about visibility, they care about traffic count, they care about who the co-tenancy is, as far as like, is there a big anchor store?
Yeah.
Like a Kroger or a Big Lots or Walmart or whomever else, because that drives traffic to the other places. And then in industrial real estate, it's all about how close is it to a major traffic corridor? Because for transportation and logistics hubs, they want to make sure that we're not having dead drive time to be able to go from the interstate to where we're picking up from a distribution center to be able to do like last mile logistics for Amazon. So those are pretty important.
Gotcha.
Land and land development, that's a whole nother gamut of what's the highest and best use, what's going to go here, development, trends, path of progress. I always like talking about, since we're here kind of in the greater Athens area, if you will, like everything that's happening up and down 316. Mm-hmm. Growing up in Cumming originally, if you showed me a side-by-side of what Georgia 400 looked like 25 years ago versus what it is today, I would have said you're full of shit. And so whether people like it or not, I mean, that's coming to Athens. And then from that, it's just going to continue to grow outward.
So what advice would you give to people who are looking to maybe invest some money and, with all the growth coming, what would be a good investment for somebody like that?
It depends on risk tolerance. And unfortunately, in my industry, it depends is a very common answer.
Same.
I'm sure that you can relate. So like if there's something that you enjoy more than the other, as far as like retail, industrial, whatnot, I usually stay away from speculation. So like buying land and then hoping that it appreciates in value. And
that's exactly what I wanted you to tell me. Like, where can I speculate some land?
Well,
where can I buy, hold it for like maybe 3 to 6 months and then get rich?
Yeah, that is playing the lottery, unfortunately.
Man.
Yeah, no. And my crystal ball only goes out about 24 hours, so can't help much there. But if you pay attention to growth trends, so like we were talking about on 316, and depending on what your hold period is of how long you can stomach not seeing a return on it, those are some good opportunities. Anything that's maybe in the path of progress of like where a new development is and it's down the road. So buying land there, that could be an option. But it also has to be with how long can you hold it and how long can you risk not seeing any money back on that.
Gotcha.
Oftentimes people are like, hey, I want to buy something. I want my cake and I want to eat it too. So I want to see a return as fast as possible.
Another thing that I think is popular is people buying large tracts of land to create like a homestead or multi-generational living within, a large number of acreage. Something my wife and I have talked about. Do you have any advice around that area?
So it's going to be dependent on the county that you're in. Always check with planning and zoning and what their ordinances are before you actually pull the trigger. So like if you're working with a good broker, they should be able to run you through the phases of what that looks like. But there's been multiple times where I've seen somebody had bought land with the intention of doing something. They didn't check with planning and zoning. They're like, oh no, that's not zoned for you to be able to do that. And they're like, okay, well, can we get it rezoned? They're like, no, because it's on a private road. So you would have to pave it. And then after you pave it, you have to put in a cul-de-sac. And then after that, we're still probably not going to approve that.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So a lot of considerations before you jump in.
100%. Yeah, that's where, like on the due diligence side for a residential property, it's short because you're really just checking out this one little thing. But on the land development side, you have to get a lot of things checked out.
Okay.
And I mean, we've done land deals that take 18 to 36 months to complete just from government approvals, zoning approvals, running it through planning and zoning, the board of commissioners, everybody else.
So do land, maybe undeveloped land, but somebody wants to use it for residential purposes, not necessarily business. Does that fall under what you guys do?
Yeah, we have the ability to do that. So I don't have any issues. That's like I don't want to sound crass here, but it's like a little bit lower tier of what we would normally do for a traditional land development. But yeah, we're very capable of being able to pull that off.
Gotcha. What about, I have a lot of clients that come to me who are thinking of opening a business and leasing space in some sort of the commercial areas that you talked about before, where there's like an anchor, like a grocery store, things like that. And they come to me with triple net leases and things like that. Do you have any advice around people who are looking to open a business in sort of that retail space?
Yeah. So if it's your first time leasing space in a commercial property that's in a retail strip center or that has triple net leases in place, there's a couple things to look out for. So there's your base lease rate. That's just what you pay per month regardless. And more often than not, you're going to have annual escalations that happen with that rate. On top of that base lease rate, you have what are called triple net costs or expenses or operational expenses that the owner of the property has, but they pass those on to the tenants. And that usually makes up, if it's a multi-tenant space, they do a pro rata share of the total combined taxes, insurance, and maintenance that it takes to maintain that property on an annual basis. And so you have 1,500 square foot and the whole property is 20,000 square feet. So out of that 20,000, you have 1,500 square foot worth of responsibility for taxes, insurance, and maintenance. So that's parking lights, repaving the parking lights, repaving the parking lot, trash facilities, and then on top of your utilities. So sometimes when you see $15 per square foot, you might have an additional $5 per square foot that comes after that, guaranteed.
Gotcha.
And so that's a big thing to look out for. And I never advocate trying to negotiate a commercial lease on your own. Probably similar in your field. Yeah, you can probably read a contract, but do you know all the ins and outs? And do you know where you can actually push and leverage within a contract to say, hey, you guys are saying it's this much, but we know that market rates are here, so we're going to attempt to negotiate a little bit lower.
Yeah.
So it's just always beneficial to have somebody representing your interests through the process.
Gotcha. And for somebody who's looking to lease, what type of professional, obviously, you guys would help with that, and how does that professional get paid?
So we're normally paid by the landlord. However, all the clients that I work with, I have a set fee in place. And so I just make sure that my clients are comfortable with my fee in case there's an off chance that the landlord doesn't cover all or a portion of my fee. If they're not capable of doing that, then, we show them properties that have the ability to cover that. But if not, then, we just don't represent them.
Gotcha.
Because we do have to be compensated through the process.
Gotcha. And you mentioned at the outset that you had been in the Navy. Mm-hmm. Is that correct? What did you do for the Navy, and how long were you in there?
I was a gas turbine electrician. I was supposed to do 6 years, but I did about 3.5, almost 4. Me and the Navy had a difference of opinion on the zero tolerance for drugs policy that they had. And so I wound up separating from the Navy. And then that time, in combination with when I was an industrial electrician, made up of about 15 years, and had a good recreational run with, alcohol and drugs and all the fun things. And finally just got to a point where I was like, hey, there's an underlying common denominator here of some things that are going on in my life. And so I was fortunate enough to be able to set all that aside.
Okay.
Didn't really have to go through any programs or treatment or anything like that. Just, it was all a lot of recreational fun during said time period. But yeah,
it's party time.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Was this in your 20s, teens and 20s?
Yeah. From about the time I was 19 till the time I was about 32.
Okay. What was your drug of choice? Can I ask that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So cocaine and weed, and then just lots of significant amounts of alcohol.
Gotcha.
Being in the Navy, they basically paid us to travel and drink.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Not cool, but was there one thing in your life that made you think like, okay, I got to stop this? Was there a significant event that led you to make a change?
I don't necessarily know if I can drill it down to a single event. It's almost a combination of all of the events that happened over that time period. And some of those made up of I got 2 DUIs that I got out of both of them, but I was under the influence on each.
But you were not convicted is what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a nice little card that I hand out to police officers that says I invoke my 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendment rights. And they're like, oh, okay, you're going to jail.
Sweet.
But it works real well.
Yeah.
And some failed marriages and relationships, and just it felt like I was kind of on this constant hamster wheel of going nowhere.
Yeah.
And so after kind of having a couple tough conversations with some people, I was like, maybe this is the issue. Like I said, I'm fortunate enough to be able to say that I was able to put it aside and just realize that, hey, I no longer need this. Like, it's not doing anything for me. It's not serving me. And like I said, honestly, since then, it's been fantastic.
And that was 7 years ago?
Yeah. The Christmas Eve of 2018.
Oh, wow.
Is my sobriety date.
Okay, cool. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
That's awesome. How did you get sober? Like, did you...
Just cold turkey.
Just cold turkey.
Yep.
Willpower.
Mm-hmm.
Do you suggest that? Or is it basic? Is it another it depends situation?
It depends. I would say that that's not recommended for individuals that do have severe addiction.
Yeah.
Because both alcohol and I believe it's opioids, going through the withdrawals of both of those can kill you.
Yeah.
And I believe that's accurate. So don't quote me on that if anybody
That's not
does.
legal or medical advice.
Correct. Thank you. That was
That's commercial real estate advice. Don't do drugs, kids.
Yeah, ever. It just depends on your situation. I have a lot of really good friends that have gone through programs, and they've came out better. And I think for me, the main thing that worked for me the most is just when I recognized that this was no longer a part of my identity. And when I said, why am I carrying this around? Like, I don't need this. And like, it's not helping me do anything anymore. And so I just kind of set it down, and it was honestly like dropping a lot of baggage.
Yeah. Does it make it difficult to be around people if they're drinking, if they're, maybe in a networking event or dinner socially? Does that get hard?
Not necessarily. Like, I have zero desire. Like, I'll enjoy one of the NA IPAs. Like, those were my favorite drinks.
When you say NA, you mean
non-alcoholic? Yeah. Okay. But no, like being in an environment like that, it doesn't have any effect on me. The only real negative effect is like after you've been in that environment for a couple of hours, it's like, okay, everybody's getting a little twisted. I'm ready to go home before the shenanigans kick off.
Once you get sober, you're kind of like, I don't want to hang around drunk people.
Yeah, my tolerance for drunk people has diminished significantly.
Yeah, fair enough. Cool. So, okay. So some time in the Navy, industrial electrician. Tell me about the industrial electrician job and why you sort of figured out that wasn't right for you.
So it was like, I thoroughly enjoyed my time in that industry. I always said it was like something that you'd see on the Discovery Channel with Dirt Jobs with Mike Rowe. Yeah. So we did very, very neat projects. I worked in probably 6 different power plants across the United States.
Oh,
and they were gas turbine powered. So they're big gas turbine engines like you'd see on a jet engine, but they're what they call them frame units. And so they would spin up and power a generator, and that produces the electricity. And so every plant that I was at, it was like massive, 60 to 100 plus feet tall, and we'd maintain all the equipment there, the control systems, electronics, and everything else. And like I said, it was a really cool job, and like we got paid really well. We called it kind of the golden handcuffs. So you made 6 figures, a little bit plus, but like you were working 70 to 80 hours a week.
Jeez.
And so that's like, that gets old after a while. And like you could 100% stay in that career until you retire and be done. But like everybody that I saw in that career, like I said, everybody's just like, no, I'm just going to do this until I retire, and then I'm not going to do nothing. Yeah. So it's like you're running this marathon of life and then just giving up at the end. Or at least that was how I looked at it. And so I was like, man, I really want something different. And then knowing that, like, I don't know if I have like early onset carpal tunnel or what's going on with my hands, but like I said, screwing in a panel or working on a motor, like my hands were like, and just I knew I saw the writing on the wall and knew that I wasn't going to be doing that for a long time.
Gotcha. Do you think this is a career, the commercial real estate, that's something that you can do? I mean, even past the normal retirement age?
Yeah, 100%. Like I talk to some brokers on a weekly basis that they're in their late 70s, early 80s, and as long as you still have the cognitive function, like you can play real estate until you're ready to call it quits.
Yeah.
And especially on the investing side, like that's one of the real big passions that I have. Me and another business partner, we have a investment development group, Altitude Development Group. Focus pretty heavily in the commerce market right now, but we buy dilapidated retail, value-add retail, do the renovations, kind of highest and best use perspective. So if it has like an entire upstairs that hasn't been utilized, we'll come in and do some industrial lofts, something real cool that helps out with the city and bring in some new tenants. And every market that we've gotten into, not only from our investment and development company, but also on the brokerage side, and kind of cultivated some of those relationships with either the downtown development authorities, Main Street managers. Like they really love the vision of everything that we're trying to accomplish. Because I fully believe that Northeast Georgia is going to continue to grow over the next 20 years. And so we're just trying to ride that wave really as long as we can. And hey, if it's improving the community at the same time and we're making a hell of a lot of money, then I don't think anybody has any problems there.
Yeah. And I think it's a good thing that you're taking older dilapidated buildings, instead of tearing them down, sounds like you're refurbishing them, doing some mixed use stuff with them, but having something that, is going to last for more generations rather than knocking it down and building some prefab thing that, looks like every other building on the block, right?
Yeah. Out in Athens, we have signs up in Oconee County that says, "Don't Gwinnett or Oconee." And so the mass exodus that like we like to joke about is everybody's leaving Atlanta to go to Gwinnett. Everybody that's been in Gwinnett for the last 20 years is getting pissed off, so they're moving further out to Oconee, and everybody out here is pissed off that everybody's coming, so they're moving further out. Well, that path of development, like that's just going to continue.
Yeah.
And so what we want to do is try to be, for one, on the front side of that, but two, like if you look at kind of every larger market as you get into Atlanta, at one point in time, that was a small market too.
Yeah.
And so if you look at the phases that every market's in, you can start to kind of see like, I can't necessarily put a time frame on it, but like eventually these 2-story old commercial buildings, like maybe somebody's eventually going to redevelop it into some mixed use where it's brand new retail and you have 4 floors of condos. So like that's coming. Like I don't know when, but it's going to come eventually. And so if we already own the real estate that's there, we kind of have a little bit of control over what comes, when it comes. And that way we can try to keep a pulse on every market that we're in and say like, hey, are you guys ready for this? Or how about this over here? So it's like being involved in the conversation is always better than being an outsider and just saying, hey, you guys aren't doing right. And it's like, well, what are you doing about it?
With that, do you work very closely with local politicians and local governments, the county, stuff like that?
Yeah, on a regular basis. Usually when it comes to zoning or like every market that we go into, either from an investment side or like my day-to-day as a broker, if I don't already have a relationship with those individuals, I'm like trying to go and cultivate those, because at the end of the day, like if we're trying to put tenants in a place, it's all green to us. So I usually like to ask the pretty poignant question of like, who do you guys want here?
Yeah.
Because if you can give me a short list, then that makes my job easier and I can go try to find them, source them, and bring them to town. And then that way everybody's on the same page and moving in the right direction.
Do you see, as far as those, the people that are calling the shots from the government side, do you see any sort of cohesive plan for Northeast Georgia? Or is it just, sort of a gold rush, no matter who's coming, let's, it's all green to us. Like we don't care. Yeah. Or do they really have like a strategy of how they want to see this growth happen?
So I would say that everybody has a plan. But
until they get punched in the face, right?
Yeah, Mike Tyson's famous quote. I was actually going to say that.
Sorry.
No, it's a great quote. I think everybody has a plan, but the plan only works good enough until it starts to get stressed. And then when it starts to get stressed, you're like, oh, this isn't going to work for everybody.
Yeah.
And so any municipalities or counties that start putting like blanket ordinances in, Band-Aids on broken arms is what I like to call it. So when we saw the big run-up during COVID, a lot of counties and municipalities put moratoriums on subdividing land because they're like, we don't want this growth in our county, so we're just going to put a moratorium on it for 12 months until everything calms down. It's like, that's fine, but now because of that pent-up demand from people like having the desire to do that, now 12 months later, the prices are probably going to be even more. That's great for the landowner. Like everybody likes their properties going up in value until tax time comes.
Yeah.
But now with that developer comes in and buys that, now they have to build something that's even more expensive. And so it's counterproductive in the affordable housing conversation. And every small market across Northeast Georgia, like honestly, they're not ready for the growth. Infrastructure is always a challenge. Parking is a challenge in almost every downtown market. And that just takes time. And the only thing, like I tell the City of Commerce on a regular basis, and it's a good conversation, so it's not like I'm sitting here doing this. But like as the growth continues, if any downtown market wants better businesses or higher end restaurants, you have to be able to have the rooftops to be able to support that. Because those businesses, they're not going to expand into another market if there's a high chance of them failing.
Yeah.
And so retail, we like to say retail follows rooftops, and then big business expansion that usually starts to bring in additional employees to support that business, and all the secondary and tertiary businesses that support that larger business. So Amazon, that's a great example. SK Battery, it's a great example. So they have a lot of different vendors that usually follow them around wherever they open up a new location.
So what's the key to get some better restaurants around here?
More housing approvals,
oh,
unfortunately.
Man.
Unfortunately, that's it. It's just a big circle with all that. But with more housing, usually the residents, all the NIMBYs, the not in my backyards.
Yeah.
We hear that term regularly in the development side of the space. They want to move to a particular area because they wanted to get out of another area. But when they move to the new area, they're like, well, I want like all of my amenities.
All the creature comforts.
Yeah.
That they used to
I only want to drive 10 minutes to a store instead of 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, if you want that, then for those retailers and those other big boxes to come to those areas, there has to be an increased population count, increased median household income. So those are all the things that those big businesses look for. And then once they start, then everybody's like, oh man, I don't want all this traffic. Well,
get out again.
Yeah. I'll help you sell your house again.
So there's no perfect world where like I can live on 100 acres and have like a nice steakhouse 5 minutes away in a Home Depot. So I don't have to drive 30 minutes.
If there is, I don't know where that is.
Oh man.
Yeah. I always joke about like,
This podcast is over.
I want townhouse living, but like not near anybody.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or I don't have any exterior maintenance, but nobody else lives there.
Yeah. I want things when I want
it. Yeah.
And I want it now. Okay, cool. So what else do you want to talk about?
If you haven't been skydiving, I'd recommend it to anybody.
Okay. It scares the crap out of me. Like I'm afraid of heights.
Surprisingly, the majority of skydivers are.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Is that like how you get over that fear, or do you just
not necessarily?
Is it just the exhilaration of something you're afraid of?
So there's the thrill of skydiving is 100% there. However, like most people, like I still get very much vertigo if I'm looking over the edge of a tall building.
Yeah.
But when you're leaving a plane at 14,000 feet, you don't really have the perception, the depth perception to be able to judge how far away you are.
Uh-huh.
And so then when you're falling, you get about a minute of free fall. You're falling at about 120 miles an hour, but it's still so slow in relation to how far away you are from the ground that it doesn't feel like you don't have that ground rush, if you will, like a bungee jumper or a cliff jumper jumping off of something tall would have. And you also don't get that stomach drop like a roller coaster because you have relative motion from the plane. So you're already traveling at like 80, 90 miles an hour. So when you leave the plane, you're still traveling forward before you start falling down.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like you're jumping from a few feet. Maybe.
I mean, the biggest like, oh shit moment is like when you leave the plane, you're like, I just left a plane and I'm in the middle of the air, and you have a lot of wind on your face. But other than that, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I got about 400 jumps under my belt.
400? Mm-hmm. Wow.
I'm still a baby in that side of the space. Like I got buddies that have 6,000 and 7,000 jumps. It's wild.
It's like every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Like 10 times a day.
Do you ever get, have this fear that your chute won't open or to get tangled or something like that?
Well, we have a common saying that like, if your first parachute doesn't work, you have the rest of your life to figure it out. But every jumper has 2 parachutes. So they have their main and their reserve. Okay. And if you're, like I said, your first one goes to shit, you have your reserve. And if that doesn't work, then, enjoy the rest of the ride because it's going to be the last one.
Fair point. Are there any other, do you do any other thrill seeking things, or is it just sort of skydiving?
Just pretty much that.
Okay.
Do that and do a lot of reading, go to the gym. Pretty boring.
Where'd you grow up?
Originally born in Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay.
And my parents got divorced when I was real young. So I moved around like everywhere. I think I was in 10 different states and I went to 12 different schools before high school.
Jeez.
Yeah. So with that, I kind of became a social butterfly, like able to reinvent myself every time we moved. And like, I thought that was fun. But I can also see the other side of that where it's like antisocial, don't want to make friends with anybody. I'm moving in a month anyway, so it doesn't matter. Yeah.
As far as your commercial real estate business, how do you get clients? How do you find clients? What marketing is working for you?
So I do a decent amount of social media. If you guys are on Jake Blickenstaff Realtor or just my name, and you could pretty much find me wherever. But I also do a crap load of cold calling. And honestly, that's been kind of my claim to fame over the years of just being able to hammer through a list and have something relevant to be able to bring to a property owner, whether it was another property that just sold. And then I could kind of provide them some value of saying, hey, I don't care if you've thought about this recently or not, but if you were, this would be what you could realistically expect to be able to bring this to market at. And a lot of networking. Like I know we've run into each other at a ton of different events. So a lot of different chambers of commerce, a lot of different networking groups. And I try to just be a connector within kind of my entire network. Mm-hmm. So if there's somebody that needs something and I know somebody else that can solve that need, then I'll make that connection. And it starts to pay itself back in dividends over the years.
Gotcha. Cold calling. That seems, I guess, scary to me, right? Like, the fear of rejection, calling somebody up, doesn't know you from Adam.
Oh, yeah.
And you're trying to sell them something, or start with providing value, give them some information. How were you able to sort of get over any fears that you may have had at the beginning of that?
So I will tell anybody that says otherwise, like that never goes away. But it's kind of like skydiving. So I equate a lot of things that happen in my life into other things that I do in life. So with skydiving, like you always have a little bit of that anxiety of like, oh shit, I'm about to leave a plane.
Yeah.
My parachute might not work. Well, I mean, if I know that as soon as I get outside the door, like everything else just kind of clicks. Mm-hmm. And so with cold calling, it's like you have all of this fear of rejection. You're wondering what they're going to say. You're wondering if you're going to trip up in your words. How's the call going to go? But like once you just make the call and the phone's ringing and you have that conversation, like who cares if they hang up on you? Who cares if they cuss you out? Like there's always going to be somebody else to call. And it's like, do you get spam calls right now?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah. Have you ever answered any of
them? Rarely. Not in a long time.
Well, if you answer one, did you remember that person's name or what they were pitching like 20 minutes later?
No.
So if that's the case, like if you know the other person on the other side of the phone, if you trip on your words or they tell you to F off and hang up, like they've already forgotten about you. So why are you giving them so much power? Like just call somebody else.
Yeah. So it's all mental.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. What advice would you give to somebody who wants to build a commercial real estate business? What's the nitty gritty that people don't see from the outside?
So there's a really long sales cycle with commercial because businesses, business owners, property owners, they might not always have a need right now. And so there's a lot of like, no, we don't need anything like that. But I have a mechanism in my business where I send out a weekly newsletter to everyone that I've ever connected to. And that just like, I'm not asking for anything. I'm just simply sharing what I'm seeing in the market, both on the commercial and residential side, and then the properties that we're listing. And I have like a 20% pitch in there saying, hey, if you ever need anything, give me a call. And so I have found over the years that that's been extremely valuable because it allows them to have me top of mind as the one that's sharing value, regardless of where they're at in their business cycle of needing anything. And then when something does change, whether it's a week later, 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, they're like, man, who's the first person that they think of when it comes to commercial real estate? And I usually get a call in those scenarios. But just knowing and having the anticipation that like, it's like, you're not going to make a lot of money in the first year. If you do, congratulations, but I wouldn't count on it. You're planting a lot of seeds for the future whenever something in their business and their life changes. And if you have the ability to stay in touch with them, you can capitalize on the opportunity.
How do you get the content for that newsletter?
So everyone, like I'm an early riser anyways. I get up at like 4:30 every morning.
Oh, wow.
And so on Wednesday mornings, that's the day.
Cannot relate.
Yeah. I'm usually in bed by like 9:30 or 10.
Same. I just can't get up there.
But every Wednesday mornings, I kind of personally curate all the content in it as far as like what's going on in the market, different news articles, different data trends, different things that I'm seeing, different experiences that we just have recently encountered, pivots or changes in the market that we notice. And I just kind of put that out. And it's not like a big diatribe of information. It's more just like, hey, it's almost like an a la carte menu. So if it's relevant to you, you'll click on it, you'll read about it, you'll get some value out of it, and you'll go about your day. And if not, then you know that it's there. And because I guarantee you probably have some emails in your inbox right now that you haven't opened, but you know that they're there. And so that's the same concept. Like even if you're busy, even if you have stuff going on, you know, like clockwork, that I'm going to have an email in your inbox at 9 a.m. on Wednesday morning every week.
Gotcha.
And just like with that repetition, you know, some people unsubscribe, but that's fine. They're probably going to unsubscribe from anything.
Yeah.
And so I'll call them next week.
And like you said, it keeps you top of mind, whether they're reading it or not. They see that you're active.
Yep.
Like your business is growing, it's active, you're doing stuff. They may not need you today, but 12 months from now, who knows, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned, trends and things that were part of the newsletter that you send out. What trends do you see coming in the commercial real estate space?
So remember how I was telling you how there's a lot of different asset classes within my industry? So Same kind of thing. Like every asset class has kind of its different market cycle that it's in. So like right now, office, everybody keeps saying post-COVID till probably now it's at the bottom.
Okay.
You can kind of take that for what it's worth. If you can buy something riding out, something I always like to say is if you can buy something that makes money now, it might make money in the future too, or more money. So I usually don't do a ton of office, but on the retail side, retail's kind of been growing like gangbusters. And that's
really,
that's one of the reasons that our investment development company primarily invests in retail, is just because with that continued expansion, you're always going to have kind of those mom and pop businesses that are either just springing up, first time entrepreneurs that need a space, for their business, or retail chains, regional chains, national franchises. And so as long as towns are growing, usually that's a good indicator for us to continue to capitalize on that.
Gotcha.
On the industrial side of the space, post-COVID, we saw a lot of overproduction for warehouses. And that was like everybody started buying stuff on Amazon. So Amazon was like, boom, they went gangbusters and started popping up like 100,000 or a million square foot warehouses everywhere. Like if you drive up 75, 85, I'm sure you've seen a ton of them that are still vacant. And then on top of that, in industrial, like sub 50,000 square feet, we're seeing a lot of good traction with that too. And also like sub 10,000 square feet. So your first time electricians and plumbers and service contractors, like they need places to operate their business. And so I always say, if you're looking at industrial products, it's smarter to be close to a major corridor, because the further out you get, then it usually becomes less of a demand. You can buy stuff for cheaper, but just because it's cheaper doesn't mean, anybody else wants it.
Interesting. I saw something recently on Athens Street. I don't know if you've seen it, going out towards Arcade. There's like a building, and it looks like it's subdivided into a bunch of little garages.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like they rent them out to a bunch of different businesses. Do you know what that type of
is that on the way back to 129?
Yes.
Yeah, on the left right there?
Yeah.
So those are what's called small bay contractor garages.
Small bay contractor garages.
Yep. So those are, I think every one of those is about 2,000 square feet. And honestly, I know the developer, and I think they have them at like $12 a square foot. So there's a free shout out for you guys. But yeah, so that's super popular because, like I said, you'll have those smaller service contractors that are just hyper local in a specific area.
Yeah.
And maybe they've been running their business out of a shop, or they've kind of bought an old house and just kind of been using it for the time being. But that allows them to have kind of that first brick and mortar opportunity.
Yeah. I saw that and I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
I hadn't necessarily seen it on that sort of like road or area before, in a sort of a residential sort of place. So I thought, hey, I wonder what is going on over there.
It's a super popular investment model, and it's pretty popular not just in the Southeast, kind of like all across the nation.
Okay. So I know that there's some other investment models that are probably getting pretty saturated, like the short-term storage rental.
Yeah, and everybody and their brothers are like, oh, I want to own a storage facility.
Yeah, and now they're everywhere.
Sure you do.
Yeah. Any other trends that you think people might want to hop on that are hot, that are not saturated yet?
I'd say, like, kind of going back to your question of like, if you were going to buy land, where would that be? If you can buy it in an area that you feel is going to be developing in the future, and you can stomach the wait time on your return, I think that's always a good play. But as far as like just buying 100 acres somewhere and hoping, that's all speculation.
Is there a way to get the best of both worlds, where you can buy some land, sit on it, but also maybe not make a ton of money, but at least cover, property taxes, things like that? Like, is there some sort of model, whether it's, I don't know, cutting down trees for lumber, selling that, or anything like that?
So,
to mind?
So on the land side, in timber and farmland, like that's an entire business model in and of itself. And if I spoke on that, I would not be speaking intelligently. But as far as kind of having the best of both worlds, if you can find a property that is cash flowing now and it makes sense for what you would be buying it for, and it also has future potential that you could do something with, either like additional vacant land, or there's the term that we like to use in the business called highest and best use. So just because it's currently this, if you were to tear this down and you went vertical with something else and it would make a lot more money, when does that make sense? Similar to what I was talking about, where if you like go towards Atlanta, every other bigger city that you see there, and you look at a downtown, you usually start to see higher and higher buildings. And then you still have that transition period where you see some of the original buildings that were there. Well, there's going to be a day where it makes sense to tear down those smaller buildings, because you can go vertical with larger buildings that have the ability to bring in newer businesses because they're brand new spaces. But with the additional floors that you're going vertical with, you can maybe do offices. Maybe you can do a hotel. Maybe you can do condos or townhomes or whatever the case is. But so we always look at everything from a highest and best use perspective. And just because you have a corner lot in a downtown market doesn't mean it has the same highest and best use characteristics, because it's always market dependent. So like you can have a downtown corner lot in Elberton and nobody wants it. And if you have that same downtown corner lot in Atlanta, it's probably like close to, $900,000 or $1 million an acre.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Tell me about your family and your kids.
Yeah. For whatever reason, I get always wrapped up in work. But no, I have a beautiful wife. Been married our year anniversary was February the 6th. I'm pretty certain. And thank you. And we've been together for 4 years and have a fantastic 3-year-old little terror of a daughter.
Nice. You said 1 year wedding anniversary?
Yeah.
Just passed?
Yeah. We did things in the reverse order. Have the kid first, get married next.
It's 2026.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that it was going to work.
Yeah. As long as she's a human being.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And
an adult, human, consenting human being. To clarify that.
And have a 16-year-old daughter, and she's awesome. And between the two of them, I like to joke and say they're my 2 happy accidents. But yeah, for those and being a girl dad, I mean, it's everything that I've always wanted.
Cool. What's your wife's name?
Haley. And
Haley.
Funny enough, my oldest daughter's name is Haley as well. So it makes it really easy at Christmas time.
Awesome. You don't call them like Big Haley and Little Haley, though, right?
Yeah, funny enough.
Do you?
Yeah,
really?
yeah.
Because my dad was Jerry, and he's Big Jerry, and I'm 6'2", 225 pounds, and I'm Little Jerry still to this day. I hate it. But I could imagine it would be different for women. Probably don't want to be. Cool. Well, sounds like you got things going good for you.
Yep.
Any other tips that you want to give to people who are listening that may be interested in doing what you do someday?
Well, I would say one of the...
You said find a mentor. I remember that.
Yeah. Find a mentor.
Some education.
And just join a brokerage that aligns with what it is that you're wanting to do. Like you're going to have a season of learning, and that's always going to come before your season of earning. So like,
say that one more time, please.
You're going to have a season of learning, and that always comes before your season of earning.
Nice.
So everybody sees like all the big checks that like we have in our industry, or like as an attorney, but like you didn't start day one and start collecting checks. It was like you had to go through school, and then you had to do like an apprenticeship or whatever it's called. So same kind of thing. Like you have to learn and learn how bad you suck for a while.
Yeah. Before
you have the ability to be good. And then once you start being good at something, then now you can start to capitalize on it.
Yeah.
And to anybody that's watching, if
there's nobody watching at this point.
Oh yeah, there's going to be people watching. It's probably 5-6 years from now, but like you're going to see it. But no, if anybody has any commercial property, we always like to follow what's called the silver tsunami. So all the baby boomers that have owned businesses and properties for the last 30 or 40 years, and I'm sure you've seen it as well, where kids don't want to play real estate and kids don't want to join the succession plan and join mom and dad's business.
Right.
And so they wind up just shutting down. Those are always great opportunities for us to come in and be able to give somebody a fair price and then continue on with our investing efforts. We're actively scaling to $100 million in acquisitions in the next 10 years.
Wow.
All new opportunities are good opportunities for us.
Sweet. Nice. And how can people find you if they want to talk to you and get some more advice from you?
Yes. So you can find me basically anywhere online. I think I've covered my SEO on Google and everywhere else, just Jake Blickenstaff. Same thing on all social medias. Phone number is 404-281-5002. It's never wrong.
Personal cell phone.
Yep.
Cool. What was that number one more time?
404-281-5002.
Cool. That's Jake Blickenstaff. What's the name of the company?
UC Commercial Property.
UC Commercial Properties. Thank you for being on. This was awesome.
No, I've had a great time.
Yeah, learned a lot about commercial property and a little bit about skydiving. And yeah, excellent. Love it.